My question is, as a child, as I was growing up, my parents did not allow me to make decisions. So now, as an adult, I have to make decisions, and I struggle with making decisions, trusting myself. So I've been working on it a lot, but I'm not at the point where I can make decisions with confidence, and I really want to get to the point where I can just make decisions right away and not going back and forth, double checking, triple guessing, and things like that.
You're emphasizing what we were talking about already here today, about how if you're not in the receiving mode and you don't know what the receiving mode feels like, then you don't have any real confidence. That's why we said that Esther asks herself regularly, where did that thought come from? Was it the receiving mode of my broader perspective, or was it the receiving mode of something bothersome? And so we don't want you to make a decision that you're going to be quick at deciding. We want you to make a decision that you're going to figure out how to get into alignment so that you know from where the information is coming. You've presented something really important here, because so many people feel this same way. They were trained by their parents or by society, and to a certain extent you train yourself and others to this, to look to others for decisions. And then when those others aren't there to make the decisions, then you feel that you cannot make a decision. But that was never the best way anyway. So look at it this way. Now you're free from the interference of others who believe that they are the best decision makers for you. You're free to tap into where the best answers have always been. Doesn't that feel better?
It does.
Can you feel how you're sort of arguing for your limitation? Well, I never learned to make decisions. The next thing we want to say is, when you're in alignment and the thought comes, it's strong. And it's an impulse that is so strong that it is not something that you equivocate over. When you can't make up your mind, it's because you've got split energy. And so what you're really talking about is staying focused upon what you want long enough that there's enough momentum going that then it's an easy decision to make.
And what if I don't know what I want? Like, I want to make the decision that is best for me, but I can't figure that out. How do I figure that out?
Do you accept that your inner being does know what decision is best for you?
Right, I do.
So doesn't it seem like a good idea that you would put yourself in a position where you could hear that? We're talking about almost two different things. You're saying, I want to make the best decision, and we say, you want to receive the best decision. You say, yeah, I want to receive the best decision. We say, then you got to get in the receiving mode. And you see, that's why we love you so much. We're speaking to you and a lot of other people. It's your own doing that your parents did all that making of decisions for you because you were insecure about it. Hear what we're saying. If you don't know how to get into the receptive mode, so you're just asking around what others think, so you're not in the receptive mode, then they're eager to offer suggestions to you, but they can no way give you any kind of depth and breadth and clarity of an answer that your inner being can. Nobody who's physically around you, even your parents who love you so much, they don't know what's in your vortex. They don't know how it all meshes together. They don't know what your true path is. So can you hear how this question is a little different than you're asking it? Your real question is, all right, I accept that the answers are in the vortex and that my path is laid out in there. How can I tune into that? And why am I insecure? Why do I keep changing my mind? And we say, it's because you're not consistently in the receptive mode. If you were, then you'd know.
So I didn't practice long enough to figure that out, what feels right and receptive?
You just have to figure it out. That's what we meant earlier when we say, if you meditate and quiet your mind and then you get an idea and you follow the idea and it really turned out to be a good one, then you say, this process works. I think I'll do this more often. And so then you listen or you feel for those answers. And here's the thing that we really want you to hear. When you're getting receptive mode answers, they are so powerful and so dominant, you don't say, I wonder if I should do that. You say, get out of my way. This is what I'm going to do. And if it feels any other way than that, it's not receiving mode answers. It's opinions, or things that you're doing because you're worried about what would happen if you don't do it. That's pretty clear, isn't it?
Yes, and I do meditate a lot, and I do I have the ability to raise my vibration and get into like a higher state. But then when I have a problem or want a solution or an answer, I sit down to meditate, and sometimes I just can't get that clarity because I already have an expectation.
Because when you're asking a question, you can't receive the answer. They're two different vibrations. So if you wait until you're in the middle of a problem and you've got all this problem activated within you and you sit to quiet your mind, first of all, it's harder to quiet your mind. And next, you're not really in a clear receptive mode because your channel's kind of all convoluted. So that's why we encourage that you meditate. And here's really the answer to what you're looking for. Because we know that you meditate, we can feel that you get into that clear place. This is what you want to know. It's important that you put some separation between asking the question and receiving the answer. Because if you sit to receive the answer while the question's all active within you, it won't get through. Because the vibration of the question and the vibration of the answer are such different frequencies.
So how do I do that? Ask the question and forget about it?
That's a perfect question. Understand that life has caused you to ask the question over and over and over again. The question has been asked. You don't have to go back and double around on it. It's been asked. 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 And it's been asked so well over a course of time that the answer is really well formulated. So now, let the question go and meditate to receive the answer. When you meditate and ideas start dropping into your mind, it's lots of different answers to lots of different things. But remember what we said earlier about the path of least resistance? You see, what most think, and maybe even what you're thinking that if I could get in the receptive mode, then I could get an answer from my inner being that is as direct and forthright as the answer from my parents was. Where they will stand and they will speak clearly and loudly and over again until I get it. Where your inner being, since you're translating it, you have to get good at translating it. You see, and that takes a little bit of practice. And most aren't very good at it because they haven't yet put separation between the question and the answer. So the whole time that they're listening for the answer, they're all balled up in the question. So they can't really hear it. And then when the impulse comes from the receiving mode of the question rather than from the receiving mode of the answer, haven't said that before. If you're beating the drum of the question, then that's the receiving mode you're in. And all you're going to do is get more answers that help you to identify more clearly that, yes, this is indeed a problem. Or, yes, this indeed is a question. So you have to put separation between the question and the answer. And then, when it first comes, it might seem off the subject, but you have to just trust it because it was loud and clear. We've been telling the story. You may have heard it, but we're going to tell it in a very condensed version right now so that you can understand. So what Esther's never-ending question is, how can I be in a position where I can be of more value to more? That's what Esther is about. That's what she's come to realize. That's what she wants. There's nothing that she appreciates or enjoys more than this, being in a position where she can open her vortex and allow answers to your questions to flow through. So that's a question that is just always rumbling in the vibration of Esther. So she meditated one morning, got a really strong impulse coming out of meditation, the strongest impulse to go play with her music system, which she hadn't played with. She didn't really understand it. It's in a house in California. She figured it out within a few minutes, discovered all kinds of different music, got settled in on rap, which was new for her to listen to, really enjoyed it. And so that's the story. She meditated and was inspired to play until she heard rap. Now, how random. And Esther couldn't, if she dug through her vortex, she could not identify why that impulse would be a piece of any answer to any question that she held. But it was so strong, she couldn't not do it. It was like more important than anything, more important than breakfast, more important than anything that was on her list of things to do that day. That was something she was driven to do. Better way of saying it is called to do.
So it was like a stepping stone to the solution?
It was such a strong impulse. This is what we're wanting to convey to you. It felt off topic of anything that mattered, but boy, did it feel like it mattered. She played with it, and then that was it. She really enjoyed it. She turned it up loud, played it through all the gardens and the courtyards, all through the house, and she just really had a good time understanding her system and hearing rap. The next day, she meditated and got a really strong impulse to move furniture around in her house. Random. Esther hadn't been thinking about moving furniture around in her house, but suddenly she was ravenous about it. She stood in the living room and she thought, this has all got to change. And it's heavy. So she got right on the computer, found someone who would come. 2 men came, and they're moving furniture around, and Esther's very playful and happy. And it's a beautiful, beautiful day, and they're talking about that. And then one of them says, I'm not going to be here. I'm going back to Alabama. And Esther wants to know why. And he says, because I'm a rapper. And Esther says, hold on a minute. So she goes in where her contraptions are, turned them on loud through all the gardens for all the land to hear, put it on the rap station, and came back out. And these 2 young men are standing with their mouths hanging open. They cannot believe it. And now they've already become quite interested in Esther because she has a very lovely place and really beautiful gardens and really beautiful things. And she's like a really crazy person because she is too old to be having this much fun. And they can't quite figure her out. And so one of them said, well, what do you do? And Esther says, I'm a teacher. Well, what do you teach? And Esther said, rap. But what we're getting at is it led to this wonderful discussion because he was giving up on where he was because what he wanted wasn't happening. So he was out there in the vicinity of Esther asking all of these questions that his inner being knew where the answers were. Esther has this intention to be of value, and so their inner beings just got together and offered a path of least resistance scenario. Are you following? How is Esther going to meet this person? So the impulse to play with her music system and then the impulse to move her furniture around were necessary for this meeting. Do you hear what we're getting at? So the answers that you think you're listening for, if it were your mother giving you that advice, she'd say, well, honey, I think you should figure out how this music system works. And you'd say, Mother, I don't have time for that. And she would say, well, really, I think you should listen to this music system. You would argue. In other words, because as humans, you want to know, well, what's that got to do with this? If I listen to the music system, then what? Well, then you have to wait for the next clue to come tomorrow. But you have to meditate first. What? And when it comes, just do it. Don't ask why, just do it. Well, that's kind of what we're suggesting here. So the first order of business is you've got to show yourself how to get in the receptive mode. And you got to know when you're there, and when you receive something that feels as strong as these 2 impulses felt to Esther, we wouldn't have to say to Esther, now do it because it feels strong. She couldn't not do it. It felt that strong. You see what we're getting at?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because when I do meditate, I do get to that point and receive a lot of information for other people, but I don't act on it.
Well, you don't have resistance about other people's situations.
Right. So I guess that's why
you only have resistance about your own. It's easy to give advice to others, but then they just argue about you because they want the big picture, you see. And that's what people often want from us. They want us to say, well, if you go here, you'll get this idea, and that'll take you over there. And then when you go over there, you'll get this idea, and that'll take you over there. And then when you go over there, you'll get this idea, and you'll meet this person, and that person will tell you this, and then you'll go over there. And we say, you really want to be the creator of your own experience, which means you want to be the decipherer of your own information. And there's not just one path. You have the philosophy or a sort of saying in your humandom that goes something like, oh, I'm afraid I'll go to the dock and I will have missed my ship. And we say, there's another and 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 another. And it'll come every morning after meditation if you'll just listen for it, you see. So meditate, chill out, quiet your mind. If you get an idea, follow through on it and watch what happens. And before long, you will know for sure that you have guidance.